these two clocks, my watch and the computer, all have 4 different times. So. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Are we ready, Madam Secretary? Yes. We'll begin the meeting of September the 3rd, 2024. It's been a while since this council's been at the table. We try not to bring council back to the table during the month of August if we can avoid it. And this year we've been able to avoid it more so than others. So welcome everyone back. It's nice to see all the familiar faces. Councillor Killam has called indicating that he's ill and he won't be here this evening. So in a moment I'll be looking for an excusal for him. I hear the door opening out there, so we now have as full a complement as we're going to have. So I call the meeting to order, and we begin the meeting as customarily we do with roll call. Please, when you're ready. We do roll call, and we do all of our voting electronically, so it takes about 10 seconds for the results to come in. And all councillors, you can see from the screen, are present with the exception of Councillor Killam. And given his prior notice, I'm looking for a motion that Councillor Killam's absence from the September 3rd, 2024 council meeting be excused. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Allen. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That is unanimously passed. Thank you. Looking at item 2, which is approval of the agenda, you've all had an opportunity to review your packages, and that of course included the agenda. So unless there are errors or omissions from the agenda, then I would look for a motion to approve. Please, moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Granger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Once we approve, for the purposes of those listening online or watching online and those in the chambers as guests, once we approve the agenda, as has now been done by unanimous resolution, then we're sure as councillors what the agenda contains, and that gives councillors the opportunity to express whether or not they feel with respect to any individual item on the agenda they might have a conflict of interest. So item 3 on the agenda is simply to give councillors an opportunity, if they feel inclined to do so, to express now their conflict of interest, which would allow me to excuse them from any discussion with regard to that particular item. Are there any conflicts of interest? Seeing none, you've all received a copy of the minutes of July 16th, 2024 Special Council. If there are no errors or omissions, I'm looking for a motion that the minutes be approved as circulated. Moved by Councillor Harding, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? All in favor or otherwise, please vote now. And once having approved minutes, as we have just done unanimously, then I look to council to raise any business that they have seen in those minutes that they wish to discuss at this point in time. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, then moving to item 6, Planning Advisory Committee recommendations of July 9th, 2024. Councillor Armstrong, are you going to take those or shall I?
I could do it. I didn't know if there was a presentation from Ms. Mosier. No, I can do it. That's okay.
Okay.
That Municipal Council received the results of the 4-year review of the municipal planning strategy as set out in the report to Planning Advisory Committee dated July 9, 2024. I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Any discussion on the motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Matart. Through you, I have a quick question for staff, if you'll permit.
Certainly.
Yeah. So on page 37 of the PAC report, one of the recommendations, and so I guess it's a question general in nature, and it's not an item of debate for or against the actual motion that will follow. It's just a question. So on page 37, we talk about the municipality's engagement policies, and that you'll note it's referenced where the community engagement policy is stricken, and it's replaced by wording that says the municipality's engagement policies. And I'm wondering to which policies is that referring to, and is it just the one community engagement strategy, and what is the status of that policy?
Ms. Mosier, when you're ready.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. So it references a public participation program that's required under the Municipal Government Act. So that is actually in development, and you'll get it in your committee of the whole package in a couple of weeks. But it just outlines the specific level of engagement we'll do for planning. And then whenever a broader engagement strategy for the municipality, for all of the municipal actions is sorted out, then we would cross-reference to ensure consistency with that.
I love that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Mosier. Any other questions of clarification? Any items of debate? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise of the motion, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. Moving to item 7, administration. Oh, I'm sorry, there was another one, was there? Sorry, Councillor Armstrong, over to you again.
Thank you. That Municipal Council give first reading to and hold a public hearing regarding the proposed housekeeping amendments to the text of the land use bylaw and the municipal planning strategy, which is substantively the same for minor differences in form, as the draft amendments set out in Appendix A and B of the report dated July 9, 2024. I so move.
Thank you. A seconder? Seconded by Councillor Granger. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Matart. Just that I'll be voting in favor of the motion, and I just wanted to, as I was going through all the amendments, it was really taking me back to 2019 when we went through these at the beginning. Well, it was a much longer process than just in 2019, but I was reminded of all the meetings that we had putting these things together, and I really enjoy looking back at that work and seeing how this document has evolved and changes and responds to the growth that we're facing in the county. And I think it's a work in progress, and I like the way that's acknowledged in the report. And also, I think we can be really proud of the document, and you can see the metrics by which it has been successful. And so I just felt that kudos was deserved to planning staff for the tremendous amount of clarification and typographical changes that were made, and to everyone who continues to enact those two documents year over year. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I echo that. I'm sure all of council feels the same way. you can't produce a document that large without typographical errors here and there and things that need to be straightened out. So thank you to staff for that. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. Moving to item 7, administration, bylaw 82, Police Services Advisory Committee. This is a second reading. We've already had first reading to repeal our existing bylaw with respect to Police Services Advisory Committee, because we have done the work to update that bylaw, but changed it so much that it warrants passage of a brand new bylaw. So it's necessary to repeal this one before we move on to adopting the new one. So I'm looking for a motion to repeal bylaw 82, being the Police Services Advisory Committee bylaw of the Municipality of the County of Kings, as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda. Mover of the motion, Councillor Hertel, seconded by Councillor Davison. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That motion's unanimously passed. Thank you, which takes us naturally to item B, which is a reference to bylaw 111, entitled Police Advisory Board. And this is a second reading to adopt this bylaw, which, as I said, will take the place of the previous bylaw that's just been repealed. I'm looking for a motion to give second reading to adopt bylaw 111, being the police advisory bylaw of the Municipality of the County of Kings, as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda. A mover of the motion. Thank you, Councillor Burgess. A seconder, Councillor Harding. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. Moving on to item C, bylaw 112, Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. We're looking for a second reading to adopt, and for the purposes of those watching and present in the gallery, this is what's commonly known as a PACE program, which enables citizens to borrow money from the municipality, have the cost of their repayment of that loan added to their taxes over a specified period of time, amortized over a specific period of time, in order to install energy upgrades to their home. Quite often, quite naturally, the form that those take are panels on the roof or in the yard. But there can be other things. So the proposed motion is that Municipal Council give second reading to adopt the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program bylaw 112, as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda. Do I have a mover of the motion, please? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Allen. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. I wasn't here for first reading of this, so I just have a brief question, if there's someone present that could ask it. Just around advertising, I'm curious how we plan to advertise and encourage people to uptake in the PACE program. I'm really excited to see this come forward. It's been a long time in the works. So I'm just curious what the plan is around advertising and encouraging folks to actually apply for it. And it's great to have it, but if nobody uses it, then then it's all for naught. So I'd love to see us really push that advertising. Is there someone that can speak to that?
Yes, there is, and
Thank you.
I'll call upon them in a minute. Perhaps also we might get some information regarding the amount of monies set aside or to be set aside to finance that program. Mr. Barr?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Deputy Mayor. So from the advertising point of view, we are working right now with the successful proponent that has applied under the RFP that we issued. They take the lead in the first year from an advertising point of view, supplemented by the work that we would do here under our normal channels that would be communicating things to residents, and including tax bills and things of that nature that really hit the audience. But they're the ones that kind of help push it in the first year, and then after that we would take the lead on our communication of it. To the mayor's question, which is very relevant to this, is that we're at the current stage now of working on the policy that is a companion to this, that has all the details associated with financing amounts, with amount of maximum loans, interest rates, terms, all those things. We're right now working with 2 different funding agencies to try and help us, I guess, come out with the most attractive program as possible. It's really going to depend on some of the funding that we're able to obtain with that before we finalize that policy that will contain all the details, including the type of upgrades that are eligible. Like the meat of the details will be in that policy. But until we kind of kick the cans with the different funding agencies, we're not able to kind of specify the amounts right at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Now I have to look to the clerk. Did I take a motion and seconder on this?
You
Yes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. That brings us to item D. I believe Mr. Frost intends to present on this. This is in relation to bylaw 113, de-transfer tax, first reading to adopt. Mr. Frost, when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. So here tonight to bring back the de-transfer tax discussion, and this was first discussed with Council back in July at Committee of the Whole, and it was delayed from a Council decision to this evening for additional information, which I have to share with you tonight. I am going to run through the presentation quickly again, just for everyone's awareness and information. So, of course, tonight the intent would be that Council hold first reading of the proposed de-transfer tax bylaw. So, a bit of history about de-transfer tax in Nova Scotia. The De-Transfer Tax Act became law back in 1968, at which point municipalities were given the authority to implement a de-transfer tax by bylaw. And of course, that was updated with the most recent MGA back in '95. So a de-transfer tax is basically paid when a property changes hands, and there are a few exceptions to that, as listed in the MGA. And it's calculated based on the sale price of the property, and it can be anywhere less than 1.5 up to 1.5% of the sale price of the property. It's always done in increments. It's usually 0.5, 1, 1.5. There is a couple that are 1.25. So how de-transfer tax is applied in Nova Scotia? As of today, the municipality of the County of the Kings is the only municipality in the province of Nova Scotia that does not have a de-transfer tax. So 48 out of the 49 municipalities currently have a de-transfer tax. Most recently, Kentville added their own de-transfer tax to leave us as the remaining one. So their de-transfer tax became active back in July of this year. So of the 48, 27 have a de-transfer tax of 1.5%. 17 out of 48 have a 1% de-transfer tax. 3 have a 1.25, and there's one that has a 0.5% de-transfer tax. So just to give you an idea of how that looks across the province, we looked at a few similar sized municipalities. So you can see that Lunenburg County has had a D transfer tax, and again, for a substantial period of time, at 1.25%, which generates an average of about $2.4 million for them. So again, over a 5-year period, has generated $12 million for the municipality of the County of Lunenburg. Pictou at 1% generates about $1 million a year. So again, close to $5 million over a 5-year period. Colchester County, who did have a 1% D-transfer tax in place, increased it to 1.5 this past year. So they average about a little over $2 million a year for a revenue of $10 million over a 5-year period. And just to show the two towns in Kings that apart from Kentville, that just put it in place, and the revenue that they receive from their D-transfer tax. So the town of Wolfville is about $500,000, $540,000 a year, and even Berwick at $125,000 at 1%. Just as a note, just for interest, HRM averages about $38 million a year in D-transfer tax, which ballooned to about $81 million. Obviously, that was during the COVID boom in sales. So D-transfer tax revenue in Kings. So this is a slide that was updated from the discussion of Committee of the Whole for your information, as this was one of the questions that was asked by Council. So Kings property, total property sales over the past 6 years from 2018 to last year, 2023, ranged from a low of 267,000 in 2020. So as you know, that's kind of the start of the COVID. And then as everybody knows, that following year was kind of the big boom in sales, and would have been our highest year over that 6-year period at $430 million in total property sales. So an average over that 6-year period of about $363 million, or $364 million in property sales. So what the question came at Committee of the Whole was what it would look like if it was at a different percent, because we had presented it at a 1.5%. So quite simply, at 0.5% on average, it would be about $1.8 million a year. And then for every 0.5%, you add another $1.8 million a year. So obviously 1% is 3.6 million, and at 1.5 would be at the $5.4 million a year. So of note, the implementation of a D transfer tax in MOK could fully fund the MOK portion of a rec complex. Rec complex would be a much larger attraction than a D transfer tax would be a deterrent. So just as an aside, so as you'll recall, we did have further discussions about the revenue required to implement a regional rec complex and what that looked like. And a D transfer tax, depending on when it was implemented, excuse me, the amount of revenue we would receive from external factors and that type of thing, and whether all 3 partners were involved or 2 partners were involved in proceeding, could swing the positive or negative of a rec complex from a loss or a deficit of about $1 million a year to a surplus of close to $2 million a year. And again, depending on the factors that were included in that. So in other words, at 1%, which was the lowest that we actually looked at with the rec complex, if we only received 50% funding from external sources, even with the D transfer tax, we'd be looking at a deficit of close to $1 million a year, which obviously we'd have to find from somewhere else. And at the 1.5, there would be a surplus every year out of that $5 million to cover the cost of a regional rec complex. So a few additional D transfer tax points. So one of the arguments that occurs many times against D transfer tax is that there's a benefit to not having it because people will come here and build here as opposed to other areas. With, again, transfer tax has been in place in Nova Scotia for a long time, since 1968. And looking at the previous growth trends, certainly we've not seen any additional growth compared to even some of our neighbors that have had transfer tax, or some of the larger municipalities, rural municipalities that have transfer tax in place. There already is a provincial non-resident transfer tax, so anyone buying municipality in the municipality of the County of Kings, currently from out of province, already pays a transfer tax, and it's actually 5% for those that are coming from outside of province. And to fund the same, that should be to fund the same amount of revenue, council would have to either increase the residential rate by 12 cents or a commercial rate by $1.18, or a combination of that to generate the same amount of revenue. So the proposed transfer tax bylaw that we have in front of you this evening is proposed at 1.5% of the value of property transferred. It does constitute a lien on the property, as all bylaws do. It would be collected by the Registry of Deeds. The exemptions, as per the MGA, which again, it's there's family transfer, gifts, certain things like that, and it would become effective November 1st, 2024, if approved. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm certainly open for questions, or would leave the recommendation that Municipal Council give first reading to the proposed transfer tax bylaw as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. I'm sure there will be questions. The motion that we see now is the one which would have to be passed first. That is to bring the matter back to the table, because the matter had already been considered at a previous meeting and tabled. But let's go to questions of clarification. Are there any? Councillor Armstrong.
I can't be the only one, but I'll start. The figures that you had on one of your slides there, which was the total properties, the value of total properties sold over the last, what was it, 5 years or 6 years? Is that all of the property that's sold, or is that just the ones that deed transfer tax would have applied to? Because it doesn't apply to vacant land. It doesn't apply to family sales.
This is the total sales that it would apply to.
That would have,
Yep.
so you've pulled out the ones that it would not apply
Yep.
to?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councillor Burgess.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, will we have a policy put in place to discuss specifically where those funds are allotted to, or how will we know that that's what, like, how do we clarify for residents that we are using it in their benefit, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Burgess, certainly that would be at the purview of council if they chose to specifically allocate it for whatever the use. A policy could be developed or could be attached to the budget policy that's coming forward or something like that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of clarification? There were questions asked in my presence that I'll just repeat. I'm sorry, Councillor Hurdle, you had a question. I didn't see your light.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, has there been any negative feedback from realtor associations or realtors around this transfer tax and their concern how it may impact the transfer of properties in the county?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle, I haven't received any, and to my knowledge, we have not received any as a organization. The clerk could certainly, if any letters had come, they would be here this evening.
Does that respond, Councillor? No? Certainly, this would be, if we were to give it first reading, that's what it is, first reading. So there would be a period of time during which I'm sure we would receive some response from the community. So it's been said that it doesn't apply to the transfer of vacant land. Is that correct?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe the CAO Let's see him.
He's
Scrambling.
working his fingers here while we speak. And the second question would be, and I believe I know the answers to these questions, but I'll wait for the CIO to respond, whether it applies to properties if a contract or if a subdivider subdivides a parcel of land and a contractor builds a house on that piece of land and sells it, that first sale, I don't believe would attract deed transfer tax, but again, I look for the response to that.
So I do have the exemptions here, which I'm not sure about the one that you just mentioned, if that would be exempt. So the current exemptions that are listed in the Municipal Government Act, just for everyone's awareness, so deed transfer tax, and there's a bit here, but I'll read it for your information. So deed transfer tax exemptions, where a deed transfers property between persons married to one another, to a municipality, between persons formerly married to one another, and I won't read all of it, but if the transfer is for purpose of division, by way of gift, and again, with a few notwithstanding, but again, transfer possibly from a parent to a child, where a deed merely confirms, corrects, modifies, or supplements a deed previously given, where there is no consideration beyond $1. So again, a transaction that's obviously doesn't have monetary included. The deed does not include more property than the deed previously given, is exempt from deed transfer tax. And then a deed from the Nova Scotia Farm Loan Board to a borrower under the Agriculture and Rural Credit Act is not subject to a deed transfer tax. A deed given pursuant to a tax sale is not subject to a deed transfer tax. A deed is not subject to deed transfer tax if the certificates of execution for the deed show on their face that they were signed by the official prior to the date of the implementation of the deed transfer tax. A deed which transfers property pursuant to an agreement of purchase and sale entered into prior to the date that the bylaw was adopted, and where the guarantee is a registered Canadian charitable organization, a deed is exempt from the deed transfer tax. So those are the exemptions listed in the Municipal Government Act.
Okay, well, prior to second reading, we'll be looking to clarify for the purposes of the record. Councillor Hurdle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just listening to those exemptions, I didn't hear anything on inheritance. Was that listed in the exemptions?
It's, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle, it does refer to by way of a gift is one, or where the deed does not, where there's no consideration beyond $1. So that's the transfer. That's how it typically happens.
It doesn't apply to
And
deeds transferred by will.
how about first-time home buyers?
It does apply, through you, Mr. Mayor, to first-time homebuyers.
Okay, any further questions of clarification? Councillor Burgess?
Yes, this is just more for a purpose of the record, but can you tell me when the last time we would have had our residential tax rate raised and what it currently is in comparison to what you're suggesting would be an alternative revenue if we increased it?
I certainly can't, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Burgess, I can't, off the top of my head, maybe Director Barr could talk about the tax raise to just as comparison, the amount of revenue, to generate the same amount of revenue, if it was just residential tax, it would be 12 cents increase.
Mr. Barr?
I don't have the exact date at my fingertips. I do know that it was somewhere in the vicinity of around 2009. I'm not familiar with how much the amount is, but I certainly can dig that up.
Thank you. Any other questions of clarification? All right, thank you, Mr. Frost. For the purposes then of the meeting, we first have to deal with the suggested motion on the screen at the present time, and that is that Municipal Council bring back the motion tabled on July 16th, 2024 to the table related to bylaw 113, D-transfer tax. Do I have a mover of the motion? Thank you, Councillor Granger. Councillor Burgess, seconds. We're now on the table. I've got two lights on, and in the order, Councillor Allen first, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The deed transfer tax is such a major change in how we collect taxes that I feel that the newly elected council in November should have the opportunity to decide this issue. It's only within a couple of months from now. That's how I feel anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hurtle?
I was going to actually make a similar motion, so I'll turn off my light.
Okay. Speaking, if we could, just to the motion that's before us, and that is to get this motion back to the table. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion around this particular motion, Deputy Mayor Lutz.
Thank you. If it's brought back to the floor, can it be retabled again? There's no statute of limitations on tabling?
Or you can simply defeat this motion, which does not bring it back to the table.
Yeah,
And it remains tabled.
My preference whenever a motion is tabled is that we set a date by which we or whoever occupies these chairs at a later date would bring it back.
All right, then in that case, you're speaking in favor of this motion.
I'm in favor of bringing it back to the floor
Yes.
to be, well, that's not on this motion, so I'll be quiet.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? So, to be clear, the result of an affirmative vote on this motion would be to bring the motion back to the table for consideration by council, and it's already been mentioned by one person at the table that they would wish to refer it or table it again to a specific date for consideration. I have another light to speak on the motion. Councillor Hurtle?
Can I ask what the results would be if this motion happened to fail? Does that mean it simply can't come back?
No, if this motion fails, then the original motion remains tabled, and someone can move again at a subsequent meeting to bring it back for consideration. To the Deputy Mayor's point, it would make it all less fuzzy if we were to bring it back for consideration this evening. And then if someone wanted to table it to a specific date, if they wished to move that motion and could find a seconder for that motion, then they could do that. Or the meeting could indeed, once it's back on the table, pass the original motion. Councillor Armstrong.
Another scenario is if this council chose by majority to approve first reading, could the next council defeat it in second?
If we approve first reading, it would come back, that's a 2-week, what's the interval, Madam Clerk? I'm sorry. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a 2-week advertising requirement, but of course it does take a few days to get the ad in the paper. So technically it would be more like 3 weeks before it could go back to council.
So that would be, it would come back to council in the ordinary course.
In October.
Prior to
In October.
new council, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? So all those in favor or otherwise of bringing the tabled motion back to the council for consideration this evening, please enter your vote. The motion is passed with 3 negative votes, excuse me. So the motion has been brought from the table, and the original motion, therefore, Madam Clerk, is that Municipal Council give first reading to the proposed deed transfer tax bylaw as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda. The motion is up for debate. It's already been moved and seconded at a previous meeting. Councillor Armstrong.
I have a funny feeling that someone's going to move to table this again.
You think?
So, but I would like to have something to say about it before that happens.
Very well.
So, this motion as it stands right now, I would vote against. Because I personally believe that we're putting the cart before the horse. All the reports that we've been given so far talk about a hypothetical recreation facility, which we don't know what it looks like. We don't know where it's going. We don't know who our partners would be. We don't know if there's a possibility of any outside source of funds from the provincial or the federal government. And without knowing all of that, it's very hard for me to say, yes, I want to tax to fund that. So I think I'd like to know more about the recreation facility before I determine how we might pay for it. So that being said, I would be voting against this. Thank you.
Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll definitely be voting against this. I'd be voting against it in any form because I disagree with it absolutely. I'd be voting against it even if it wasn't a new council coming in. I'm not actually all that afraid of this affecting my council run for next term because I'm not reoffering for council, but I would really like to see how those around the table feel on this position to make sure that if this comes back again to next council, if they're trying to avoid making this an election issue, I would really like to make sure that we see the true feelings of those who will be voting on this now tonight and their absolute thoughts on it, as opposed to trying to delay the issue, have it at the beginning of a council term, and then have 4 years to wait until it's thought of again in the next election. So that's a long form way of saying I'm absolutely against this, but I'd love to see how people feel on this as voted.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe Deputy Mayor, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Mattard. Well, I, for one, am not scared at all to say how I feel about this, and I think that I give that credit to all of my colleagues, that no one here is sitting here saying words and making decisions that they think will impact their election choices. They were elected from October of 2020 until October of 2024, and that while they sit in this chair, they make decisions based on themselves as a councillor and not to influence or impact their re-election choices. So I would just like to say that I personally believe that about myself, and I believe that about everyone else in this chamber as well. On that, I support the deed transfer tax, and I have said that to many people. I've said that to folks on the doorstep who've asked me. But more than supporting a deed transfer tax, I support a recreation center, and I've been very vocal about this from day one. Is the deed transfer tax the best way of getting there? Yeah, I believe it is. I believe the residents of this county have been underserved in recreation for decades, and I believe that we should have done this 8 years ago, and I wish we had, because we probably could have had a pool by now and a rec center by now. So I fulsomely believe that the people of this county deserve a recreation center, that we're the only region in the county that doesn't have one that's regional in nature. We're the third largest municipality in the province, and we don't have a regional recreation facility. However, that being said, I agree with Councillor Armstrong. We don't have all the details. There are some unanswered questions. I believe I can see the way the wind blows that the next council wants to make a decision on this issue. I can't be accused of not saying how I feel in an effort to influence my election chances because I've just said it. I think that this would be best discussed in January and give the new council, which none of us may be at the table at that point in time, so an opportunity to learn the job and to hear about the recreation complex that's proposed and hear about where it might be, who we might work with. I also believe time is of the essence. We have 2 more elections coming up where there may be the ability to leverage funds from other levels of government, and that to wait too long would be a massive regret of this council, I believe, whoever's here at the time. So I fully do support a detransfer tax if it's the vehicle by which it's best to get a recreation complex. If there's no recreation complex, I don't support a detransfer tax. I do support a recreation complex. So whatever form it looks like, if it's 1.5%, if it's a lot less than that, I believe that we need to have a lot of conversations about it, and I don't think it's fair to the incumbents, I don't think it's fair to anybody to make this election a single election issue, because that limits us all to being single issue people. I think that we all stand for a broad range of different things, and that this would do a disservice to everybody running to make this the only thing anybody wants to talk about. So everyone running has good ideas, and they deserve to have air and space to be able to talk about those things and not just one thing. So I would like, as was stated, to hear what other folks have to say on this issue, but I would be happy to make a motion to table this motion until January 2025 council. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Would you mind if I called upon those who wish to speak before I take your motion?
I didn't intend to make the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that I was in favor of tabling this at a later date, and Emily's suggestion, January 25th, is fine with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm in the same voice as the other 2 that I'd like to table it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Burgess.
Yes, thank you. We've spoken in length here about how people choose where they live based on the services that they have provided to them when they move. And although we haven't really seen a delay in people moving to the area with the lack of recreational services, when we think about families who move from metro areas or areas that are more urban and less rural, they have a lot more recreational opportunity and may choose a different lifestyle to move here if we were to have such facilities and opportunities for them. And I think that a detransfer tax wouldn't deter those people from making the choices. As we said, the attraction is way bigger than what the detransfer tax would be. However, without a plan for detransfer tax or a plan, as Councilor Armstrong and Deputy Mayor have both allotted to, that we don't have a plan yet. So I feel in many ways, if we implement this now, we're telling people we're going to charge you for something and you may or may not get something in return. So I do believe that it is something that we should wait until we have a more fulsome idea of what we're going to use those funds for before moving ahead with this transfer tax currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with your permission, I'll speak on this without fear of not being elected as a result. This municipality has, as everyone is aware, has been considering the issue of a recreation complex. If we were to start construction of such a complex, it would be at least 2 years in construction. We'd first have to acquire the land. We'd have to have the detailed drawings, engineering drawings done up. We'd have to award a contract. We'd have to build infrastructure into the area, because the area must be at least, I would think, 10 acres in order to give room for the kind of additional growth that complexes of this nature attract. That said, whether or not such monies would, such additional income to the county would go to a recreation facility, perhaps may be moot, and will be moot if you decide, if a future council decides not to build a recreation complex, notwithstanding all the work that's been done with the potential partners. We are already very deficient, and have been historically for a couple of decades, already deficient in our asset management matters, such that we have probably a deficit in our reserves of $20 million or so dollars. And we have pipes that are at the point where they're breaking now consistently, and it's costing a great deal. It's already cost us millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in the regional plant, and there are other areas that how many sewage facilities do we have? 13 such facilities. If at some point in time, we've been very good at being able to survive on the increase in valuation of property as opposed to increasing the taxes, the tax rate. We've been able to coast along in that fashion, but these infrastructure issues have become critical enough that they will need all the resources that we have excess beyond our annual commitments, whether or not we have a deed transfer tax. That said, we are the only municipality in the entire province of Nova Scotia that does not have a deed transfer tax. And at whatever rate you decide to set that at, and I can say offhand that those who have set it at 0.5% have mostly now ended up at a 1.5%. I think it's a very sad thing that the province of Nova Scotia decided to step into the deed transfer tax business with regard to persons who come from, who are non-residents of Nova Scotia. But I have no politics, and I don't even know who decided to do that. But it's a shame, because it's a municipal jurisdiction in the first place. It was given to municipalities, as has been said, in the 60s. So I wouldn't be bashful about supporting a deed transfer tax. The last time it was touted in this municipality, I was firmly against it. Because it seemed to me at the time, not having had the experience with it, seemed to me at the time that the arguments of the Real Estate Association made some sense in suggesting that it would diminish investment in our community and shrink growth. And now we have 15 years later, we have the experience of, as has been pointed out to us by the presenters, of the fact that it has had no impact on the growth of those municipalities that have introduced it. It has had zero impact, and it has not had any beneficial impact to this municipality by not introducing it. So I just put those out there. I'm not, at this point in time, trying to convince anybody. I'm not even telling you how I would vote in the event that it was before us to be voted upon. But that's the background as I understand it. I just wanted to share it before I left the table. Do I feel a motion coming on? Deputy Mayor.
I move that we table this until January Council 2025.
It's been moved. Do I have a seconder in two places? I'll take Councillor Davidson's second. Any discussion?
There's no
it's a
discussion.
Motion to table. No discussion on the motion to table. All those in favor or otherwise of the motion, please vote now. The motion passes with 2 negative votes. Thank you. So we're tabled until January, what was it, Deputy Mayor? 2025. So the first meeting. So it'll come to the agenda of the first meeting in January. Thank you all for a lively discussion. That takes us to item 7E, Policy Admin 01-23, Council Conference Attendance and Professional Development. The proposed motion is that Municipal Council adopt Policy Admin 01-23, Council Conference Attendance and Professional Development, as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Just again, a question, because I apologize I wasn't at the last meeting. I was wondering about the written reports post-conference, in that I think it's an excellent idea, and I wonder how we plan to enforce that. And will it just become a standing agenda item? Like if someone goes to an event, that the next immediate council meeting following that event would be on the agenda under reports, if that could be included. I think that would be a good way of enforcing it. And I'm just wondering if that's the plan, or if that could be considered as part of the plan. I don't think it's in the policy. There's no mechanism of enforcement within the policy, but if that could be part of the standard operating procedure as a way to enact that policy, or something along those lines, I would like to see that. I don't even want to say enforcement, but just reminder that you have a responsibility when you go away to come back. I think it's a really excellent idea.
Thank you for that, and it has been, as you know, the policy of this council that those persons who sit upon committees and go to professional conferences do prepare a report for council. I think I take your words as endorsing that there be a policy of this council that future councils, that anyone attending a conference that's paid for by the municipality of the County of Kings in their capacity as councillors, that they do have an onus to present to council a report of what they've learned at the conference and what its value has been to them. I quite agree with you, and if perhaps our discussion would lead to staff putting together a recommendation for a policy in that regard.
Thanks, Mayor. And to clarify, it's in there under 3.13. I think having a mechanism, and again, enforce is too strong a word, but having a mechanism to really encourage that to happen at the next immediate meeting following that event would be prudent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Allen. I'm sorry, Councillor Allen. The Deputy Mayor and I were fighting over her light.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. The Deputy Mayor answered my question, so very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, there. I was having the same problem with your light. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Davis.
Thank you through you, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, sorry. Deputy Mayor again. I think this is a great policy to start to follow, because I've been to pretty much all of the conferences over the last year, and coming back and discussing in the back room about what we've learned. It's good, but to bring it out here and have it sort of in public record that we're actually going to these conferences and we're learning new things and keeping up on what's going on municipal-wise, provincially and federally. I think it's an excellent policy to enforce, especially when there's going to be new council coming in that are going to be doing these conferences. So I'm certainly going to vote for the new policy, or the same policy, I should say.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor or otherwise of the motion, please vote now. That's passed unanimously. Thank you. And that was second reading of that motion. Moving now to item 7F, Policy Admin 01024, Asset Naming Policy. 7 days' notice was provided on July the 16th, and this is the motion to adopt the policy. That Municipal Council adopt Policy Admin 01024, Asset Naming, as attached to the September 3rd, 2024 Council agenda. Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Allen. Is there any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those in favor or otherwise with the motion, please vote now. For those in the audience or watching who haven't had an opportunity to read the package that accompanied these minutes, asset naming has to do with cleaning out any offensive names that the council deems to be offensive, or the community has indicated to council and the council accepts are offensive or inappropriate in any other manner. Then this council has the opportunity to change the name of that particular asset, whether the asset be a road or some other municipal asset. The motion's passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item G, Proclamation Request Right to Know Week, and I'm going to Madam Clerk for her comments on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This came from, this was a request coming from the Information and Privacy Commissioner for Nova Scotia. This municipality has proclaimed Right to Know Week since 2017. And if council approves the proclamation, we would send a copy of the proclamation to the Information and Privacy Commissioner, and they post those proclamations on their website. And so the recommended motion is that Municipal Council proclaim September 23rd to September 29th, 2024 to be Right to Know Week in the municipality of the County of Kings.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Burgess. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion's passed unanimously. Thank you. Item H, Policy HR 06019, Non-Union Salary Administration. Ms. Ward is going to present on this, I believe. Are you at the center podium, Ms. Ward? Just want to explain to the people online that anytime there's dead air in this room, it's usually a technical thing. So we've got that sorted, right?
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. I'm here today with the amendments to Policy HR 0619, the non-union salary administration, for your consideration. This policy was adopted on December 3rd, 2019, and was last updated on May 4th, 2021.
Ms. Ward, I'm sorry, but it's for the folks in the back I'm speaking now. If you could just move the mic a little closer to...
Is that better?
Well, I know you need to read your notes, so if you're pointing that way, if you would move your mic that way as well. Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks. On June 20th, 2023, Municipal Council instructed the Chief Administrative Officer to administer the salary adjustments to non-unionised personnel as outlined in the related request for decision. This Council instruction included an adjustment to the salary ranges per the recommendations filed by a third-party consultant and a 10% premium to employees within the manager classification who maintain an accounting, engineering or planning professional designation that relates to their position. The professional designation component also applied to unionised positions, and the collective agreement was adjusted accordingly. There were no further changes recommended to benefits or pension packages for non-union employees. However, the Council instruction did not serve as the required 7 days' notice to update the policy HR 0619, non-union salary administration. There are no financial implications associated with this amendment, as these amounts were included and approved by Municipal Council as part of the 2024-25 Municipal Operating Budget, adjusted as of June 1st, 2024. And that brings us to the recommendation that Municipal Council provide 7 days' notice per Section 48, Subsection 1 of the Municipal Government Act to amend Policy HR 0619, non-union administration, as detailed in the September 3rd, 2024 request for decision.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind staying with us for a moment in the event that there are questions of clarification. Any questions from council of the presenter? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this is really around the correction of a procedural omission on a prior occasion. So is someone prepared to move the recommendation? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Burgess. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion's passed unanimously, thank you, and we're moving to item 8, but I'd ask presenters to stay in their seats because we're declaring a 15-minute recess, a health break right now. Thank you. Works, and Mr. Pearson, Manager of Engineering, will be presenting. Mr. Pearson, I'll put your light on when you're ready, sir.
Excellent. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and to you, Council. On the agenda today is the J-Class Road Program. There's an assessment done each year, and a list of roads are submitted. This is for the 2025-2026.
So, well, just as you're at a pause there, if maybe you could lift your table up a little bit. Do you know where the... There you go. Okay. Thank you.
So as a discussion, the background of this program is for us to submit a recommendation for 10 roads to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works. This list only includes roads from the 1995 J-Class list. These roads that we recommend to have a surface type of gravel, chip seal, and sand seal. Paved roads are ineligible to be resubmitted. So this year, during the summer months, Engineering Public Works staff completed a review and an audit of the compiled 2023 data. That data includes the review field condition ratings of each of the roads. It includes the road surface types and also the financial, environmental, and social cultural scores, FESC, of each of these roads. Just as a, I guess, detail-oriented update, the FESC is in relation to schools, other public services, post offices, through fare, how many houses or subdivided roads might be coming off of this. That's how the FESC scores are established. Secondly, we completed a field assessment to make sure there was no data gaps, make sure that the roads either hadn't been repaired throughout the year or that they hadn't deteriorated beyond what they were initially established in 2023. Thirdly, we revised the 2023 road registry with all of the collected field assessments and use that updated information to make our decisions. So the condition ratings are done based on kind of an average of the road surfaces. They go from worst to best. The best would be roads that are recently repaved or repaired. Fair would be roads that have asphalt surfaces, gravel surfaces that are continuously maintained and kept in working order. Damaged would be roads that have been known to cause damage to vehicles, or roads that have a high potential to cause damage to vehicles that travel on it. So the road surface visual inspections are done typically by EPW staff, either CETs, summer students, and sometimes by the municipal engineer themselves. We're looking for different types of roadway damage, something similar to potholes, delamination, alligator cracking, horizontal longitudinal cracking. We do look at the shoulders of the roads as well, how the ditch and the subsurface aggregates are holding up underneath of the paved surface. We take into account, I guess, the condition, but also like the future condition based on what we see happening. Sometimes a road with a lot of potholes isn't quite as bad as something that we see substructure failure in, something that's going to be a bigger problem. The FESC scores have been established back in 2023. They're updated as we see development in the county. As more people travel these roads, or build houses on these roads, or services or businesses. We do review those. The maximum score provided for each road can be 150. It's considered a level of service on this road. Some factors might be considered if there's a lot of businesses that have 18-wheelers that travel across this road, how that might impact it. If there's a lot of school buses that travel along this road, if there's people that walk through these roads quite often, and also the social and cultural impact of how these roads look once you turn onto a new subdivision. So once we've compiled all the data and updated it each year, we provide all the roads with a condition rating. We sort it by this rating as well as their FESC score. This manner of rating roads and prioritizing them from poorest condition with the highest FESC score kind of allows us to find roads that do need repair, but also roads that are used the most often. That way there isn't roads that maybe are damaged but only are accessible by 3 or 4 houses that might, utilize it. So included in the discussion is the road list itself. Some of these roads were submitted previously. Each year, the Department of Public Works only selects a few of the 10. It's our role to continue to recommend and to update our list and provide them with roads that we see fit. The top 5 of the recommended 10 include Sandy Court, Station Street, Andrea Drive, Lincoln Court, and North Park Street. The majority of these roads were visited by myself or by staff. We've updated their condition rating and confirmed that there has been no repairs or additional work done on those roads this year. The other 5 of the 10 include Pinewood Avenue, Morse Lane, Bishop Avenue, Centennial Drive, and Ronald Avenue. You'll see that there is a mix of condition ratings in this, Poor 2 and Poor 1. One consideration was the FESC score. As we get to lower scores, I guess below 50, and you go to visit these roads, you'll find that typically there's under 5 to 8 houses on these roads. There's no significant businesses at the end of them. Typically these roads aren't used as thoroughfare. So at that point we would look at something that maybe has a lower rating but is used more often, something that might be damaged quicker than the roads that have a lower FESC score. So the recommended list includes a total road length of 1.9 kilometers. The average score was 59 of 150. 5 of these 10 roads have been updated or previously had a Poor 3 condition rating. This does show the 2025-2026 road summary list. There's 2 dates on this list, 1995 and 2023. You can see just on the top line there, pavement PA is the road surface type. In 1995, there was a total of 93 road segments that were paved, and in 2023, there were 288. So hopefully this program is continuing to pave roads and to improve their durability and their service level. The remaining eligible roads can be seen on the lower bottom of this table. In 2023, there are 105 eligible roads to be submitted. The 10 that we have are included in that. We hope to see that number continue to be improved, and that is intended to be done through the J-Class road program. The cost-sharing agreement for this program include a 50-50 split for the repair of these streets with the province. Our plan alignment believes that utilizing this program supports 3 of the 5 key strategic priorities outlined in the 2021-2024 strategic plan. Strong communities, economic development, and financial stability, sustainability. The implementation of this will be to take the council-approved list of 10 roads and submit that to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works prior to October 31st of this year. Our engagement will be letting the relevant villages within this list, they're going to be provided with the roadway after the approval by the municipal council. That way they'll have the information prior to the decision by the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works. The recommendation is that municipal council direct the chief administrative officer to submit the list of recommended J-class roads for paving contained in the September 3rd request for decision to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works under the cost share agreement number 2023-014 for the fiscal year of 2025-26.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. If you'd stay in your place in the event that there are any questions of clarification. Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just wondering if the list gets submitted by October 31st, when does work actually commence?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Councillor Granger. Typically, the work is planned and scheduled by the Department of Transportation itself. I guess my expectation would be for them to let us know when they might expect to start, but that would be a decision made by the department itself outside of the municipality.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, on average, over the years, we submit these 10 roads. How many of the 10 submitted roads are completed for work?
Are accepted?
Are accepted, yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Councillor Hurtle. Typically, I believe 3 to 4 roads are accepted by the Department of Transportation, and they complete them throughout the fiscal year.
And so at that rate, how long would it take for all these roads to be completed?
Depending on how many they would accept each year, with 105 roads, including the repairs they make, the emergency repairs they make, I guess you could assume 30.
And the lifespan of a road, what's the typical lifespan of a road?
It's dependent on a lot of factors, I guess. Typically the use and the type of construction of the road. Normally J-class roads are residential, not highway or connector roads, so they're constructed in a different fashion than main arterial roads.
Would that be more than 30 years then? If you're all right with this, Mr. Mayor, I've got a few questions.
I'm not sure that that last phrase contained a full question.
Okay.
So perhaps you could rephrase.
Certainly. Based on the J-class construction of the road, and because they're non-main highways, secondary roads, would the typical life of those roads be greater than 30 years?
Before they needed to be repaired again?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Typically, I guess our assessment doesn't include the lifespan of these roads. It would just be the condition rating of them. There's a lot of factors, I guess. Could be weather. It could be, it could even be construction in the area. If the Department of Highway was to complete some kind of repair and have heavy machinery in on that road, it could have an impact on the road the next year, on a road that was expected to last 20 years.
And my final question, I'm seeing 3 levels of poor, which sounds like we ran out of words to describe how bad they are until they are absolutely damaged. Knowing these aren't our assets, but the assets of the province, has it ever been considered to make sure that the listing, the condition rating was included in our atlas so that the public could then always have an idea of our current condition rating and have it publicly available through the municipal atlas?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Hurdle. So the condition rating is typically averaged from the field assessment. I don't believe there's like a standardized version of Poor 1, Poor 2, Poor 3, or damaged. As those assessments are made, typically they're made by a third party, an engineering consultant. Then we would make a reference check from the municipal staff themselves to confirm there has been no major changes or that we would agree with their recommendation or their assessment, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Sandy Court, I was in there last week and the potholes are pretty deep, pretty big. If we go to in October, this might not get done to next year or sometime next summer. Does the Department of Highways come in and just fill the pothole? Do they ever do that? Or potholes, the bad ones, like that would swallow your vehicle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Harding. I'm not certain of the repair tactics that the Department of Public Works used to repair potholes prior to, I guess, repaving or reclamation of the road, but my understanding would be for them to reduce any kind of unsafe roadways before they had any intention of repaving it.
Okay.
I know,
it's great to see this on the list. Yes, and it needs it.
It was on the list last year for submittal, and it was not selected. This year, it will be on the list as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to speak to the 2 that are in Kingston. So the FESC score for Bishop Avenue in Kingston is 85, and the other one in Kingston is 60. So would you assume that if they use your poor rating and the FEC scores that Bishop Avenue would come out on top as far as paving goes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Councilor Armstrong. I do not know the procedure that the Department of Public Works takes when they receive our list for their selection criteria. Hopefully they would take both factors into account when they select a road.
It's just that Bishop Avenue has probably 25 houses on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandy Court has got 3 duplexes and I think 2 or 3 single family dwellings on it. So to me, to us, you know, you'd like to think that they would do the one that serves the most amount of people. Correct. And it has, like, do they take your FESC scores into consideration, or is that something they set up, or is that something you've set up?
FESC scores are established by the municipality. It would be, we would have the...
But they know what they mean.
They do understand the meaning of them. I guess their intention would be to correct any kind of severe damaged roads, something that could be potentially large craters,
right,
for something that sees more traffic but only has delamination or alligator cracking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, and this may be more appropriately directed at the CAO, but is the provincial budget for this work still $2 million?
Yes.
Yes, and it has been since 1995? Never gone up. Okay, interesting. Thank you. You know how old I was in 1995? I'm not even going to say. But $2 million doesn't go very far in 2024 in the same way it did in 1995.
So that question was for public awareness.
It was more for public awareness. And also, I thought potentially the province could have had a moment of clarity and thought, maybe we should put more money in this since we haven't indexed it to inflation or raised it in 30 years. So,
yeah.
Just curious, but now I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davison.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, briefly, just where the Deputy Mayor was making comments about 1995, I wasn't born yet, so I don't know. So we'll just... Right, okay. Anyway, on to the questions. Just a question for clarification. So when the roads, those roads get completed, do they get reassessed the year after, or can I look at it and go, okay, well, in 2 years from now, if I'm sitting at this chair, I'm going to get some of these roads done in our area? Do they get reassessed at that time so we go through the system again, or do we know that in 2 years the other 10 roads are going to be done, per se?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Councillor Davison. Typically, they would be assessed. I have gone through the list that was approved for 2024 to go see if those roads were completed. Normally, best practice would be to find out if the work was done, make sure that the municipality has a record of the condition, hopefully get some post-construction photography, and just have that updated within our internal records.
Okay. So basically, they just get reassessed again?
They would be reassessed, and we'd hopefully keep an updated registrar.
Okay, all right. And just something that Councillor Harding had just brought up with TIR is that they are very receptive, especially for if we send messages off to them because there are some roads that just fall apart for no real reason. They are receptive of going and temporarily fixing those roads. You know, pending you send any nice email to them. They're
Part of our assessment was exactly that.
Okay.
Using 2023 road assessment data does give you a good basis for the FESC score and what the condition was, but who's to say that they hadn't repaired it due to concerns or due to the public pointing it out, or due to a lot of different factors. They may have repaired these roads prior to us submitting the top 10. So we did those checks prior to any submission or recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hurdle for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for our CAO. Do you remember when our meeting was with the chair of the Treasury Board to discuss the potential of upgrading all of the J-class roads? I remember the discussion with MLA Irving back in a previous government when we wished that there would be the option to upgrade all these roads to the provincial standard. That was within this council term. How far back was that? And when did council hear about that?
Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Hurdle, it would have been at the first of the council term. It certainly wasn't one meeting. We had multiple meetings with different provincial representatives. I can remember meeting with the former Minister Hines. There was deputy ministers, executive directors, the provincial engineer in charge of roads. And during those meetings, we presented, as you suggest, or as you alluded to, that we suggested a package of a program that we could put together to do them all at once. And we have 135 kilometers. The average rural, from memory, is 30 kilometers. So we're significantly above the other average. So we wanted to, basically in a very short statement, we wanted them to commit to a contract, and then they pay 50%, and we would use that contract to borrow money and do them all, and they would pay the 50%, and we would then arrange the financing on that basis. That meant the Treasury Board had to take it from an annual program to a multiple year program. We weren't looking for an additional, we'd like to have it indexed, but we weren't looking for additional money. and we thought that that program would solve the situation here in Kings, but there was no traction at that point.
Without sufficient time in this council term, perhaps that may be a thought for next council. Just putting it out there with a few people in the room.
Thank you, Councillor. I might add to what the CIO has had to say is that the Chair of Treasury Board declined our invitation to meet regarding that issue. No further questions of clarification? That takes us to the recommended motion. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. The Municipal Council direct the Chief Administrative Officer to submit the list of the recommended J-class roads for paving contained in the September 3rd, 2024 request for decision to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works under Cost Share Agreement number 2023-014 for fiscal year 2025-2026. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Granger, seconded by Councillor Burgess. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. So while we're waiting for that vote, I'll explain for the people online and those in the audience that we will be going into an in-camera meeting at the end of this agenda to discuss Section 22 of MGA matters, which are in this case, things related to employment and to the dealing with real estate owned by the municipality. But we'll be coming back to make a decision regarding at least one of those things. That motion is unanimously passed. Thanks very much. Moving to item 9, nominating committee recommendations of August 13th, 2024, and I'll go to the chair of the committee, Councillor Armstrong.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Thank you. That Municipal Council appoint Roxy Peterson as a citizen member to the Diversity Kings County Committee for a 2-year term commencing September 1, 2024. I so move.
Thank you. A seconder to the motion, Councillor Granger. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. These are motions that were a result of a meeting of the nominating committee to fill vacancies on committees. That motion is unanimously passed. And the second one, Councillor Armstrong.
That Municipal Council reappoint Doug Ralph as citizen member to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term commencing September 1st, 2024. I so move.
Seconder of the motion, Councillor Hurdle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. We move to board and committee reports.
One more.
Were there more? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Your light's still on.
That Municipal Council reappoint Crystal McCormack as citizen member to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term commencing September 1, 2024. I so move.
And the seconder, Councillor Davis. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's passed unanimously. And one more.
That Municipal Council reappoint Mary Fox as a citizen member to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term commencing September 1, 2024. I so move.
Thank you. A seconder, Councillor Burgess. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's passed unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to item 10, board and committee reports. For the members of the public and those watching online, all members of council sit on either boards or committees or both, in addition to their duties at this table. And those that do, when they have met, and we had this discussion earlier with the deputy mayor, when they have met, they bring to the table a report associated with the committee for which they're responsible. So, Regional Emergency Management Advisory Committee, we have a report submitted by our manager, Dan Stovall, which is in our materials. Are there any verbal reports from committee or from members of council regarding committees? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mattert. I have one on behalf of the Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition Board. For everyone's awareness, the Annapolis Valley Trails Coordinator, Rick Jakes, has retired as of August 23rd. So he is riding off into the sunset. We're all very jealous, and I would just like to publicly thank Rick for the many years, and I think more importantly, the leadership that he really demonstrated in bringing the coalition together, in getting the Harvest Moon Trail put together, and bringing folks who were cyclists and ATV people and hikers and pedestrians and commuters and everyone in between to come together and agree to build that asset that has become one of the most wonderful assets in Kings County as far as recreation goes. So a huge congratulations to Rick and Noreen, who is his wife, who will also be wrapping up her work with Trailblazers, doing the maintenance. So they've just provided something truly special and invaluable to the county. And I did share the news with Mayor Mattert, and he did write a letter of congratulations to Rick, thanking him for the many years he put in. So that does mean we are searching for a new Trails Coordinator at the Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition. We do have a meeting on September 19th to talk about a go-forward plan. As many of you know, the chair had her house caught on fire, so there's been some delays in some of that. So it's been, we're moving forward at a reasonable pace, but I can keep everyone updated after our September meeting. Yeah, and so just a big thanks to Rick.
Okay, thank you, Deputy, and I would, I think, add that the general public has no concept of the depth and breadth of that particular job, so it's going to be hard shoes to fill. Are there any other verbal reports from members regarding committees of council? Yes. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I chaired the Greenwood Water back in August. We went over the water quality numbers. Everything was good. Talked about the new wells that are coming online in the near future, and had talked to some new members from CFB Greenwood as well. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any others? Any verbal reports regarding external boards and committees? Seeing none, then I'm just looking for a motion to receive the board and committee reports as attached and as provided verbally. I have a motion from Councillor Allen, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, your light is on.
It's okay. I just wanted to invite everyone out to the annual meeting of the Landscape of Grand Pré, which is also September 19th. And I'll just share the email with council, but the annual members meeting will be that day. And so that's when all the partners from the UNESCO World Heritage Site get together. And that's our annual meeting. So I'll give folks the date and time via email, but it's always a nice event.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. While we're waiting for the results of that, we have received correspondence, one from Valley Search and Rescue with an invitation to their awards banquet, one from the municipality of the District of Guysborough expressing their support and concern for this municipality as a result of its recent flash floods, to which I have responded, and that response is also in the materials, and then one from MP Blois regarding the Canada Summer Jobs Initiative, with which he provided a certificate for presentation to the individuals who were successful in obtaining those jobs. If there is no additional material to bring to the meeting, then I'll entertain a motion to receive the correspondence, please. Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Burgess. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Because we will be going into, that motion's passed unanimously, because we will be going into in camera shortly, and we never know how long those meetings are going to take, then we understand if people wish to leave, but you will have to wait in the hall if you wish to come back to see what, if any, results come from those in-camera discussions. I'm sorry I can't give you a time, but we'll open the doors and invite you back in if you're there. But for that reason, we have moved up on the agenda a couple of, or one item, which is, or two items. One is the other business item, which I'll ask council about in a moment, and the other is comments from the public. In the event that any member of the public who's here this evening wishes to make comment, we'll receive that before we go into the in-camera, whereas generally we would leave that to the very end of our meetings. So, any other business that any councillor wishes to raise? Councillor Hurdle.
Before we conclude, I'd just like to make sure we thank the lead singer of U2 for joining us this evening. Bono.
You want to just...
Oh, sorry, let me describe the joke I'm making about the mayor's glasses.
Okay, thank you. Any other business to come before the meeting? Comments from the public? No comments from the public? You'll have your day. I'm looking now for a motion to move into closed session. We'll take 5 minutes if and when we pass that motion, just to get organized, because we have to shut down the public feed and so on and turn off some of the monitors. And then, as I said, we will come back into public session certainly to deal with one of those in-camera matters. So I'm looking for a motion to move into closed session under Section 22 of the Municipal Government Act. Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Harding. Any discussion? None. All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Thank you to all of you that have tolerated us thus far. And again, feel free to leave if you wish and come back later or not. The motion is passed unanimously, and we are going to move into in-camera and off public session. Thank you. 5-minute recess. soon as we're online. Okay. So thank you for the discussions in camera and the presentations that we have received. And as a result of the presentations, we have recommendations that Municipal Council approve the conveyance of PID 555-49133 and PID 554-1726 and any structures located on those properties to the Kings Regional Rehabilitation Center or its successor as detailed in the request for decision dated September 3rd, 2024. Do I have a mover of the motion, please? Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion's passed unanimously. And the second recommendation is that the Municipal Council approve the Mayor and CAO to execute a lease agreement with the Kings Regional Rehabilitation Center or its successor for land on PID 55282545 related to existing well infrastructure utilized by the Kings Regional Rehabilitation Center as detailed in the request for decision dated September 3rd, 2024. Do I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Harding. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. And for the purposes of the public that might be online, I will explain that the Municipal Council is disentangling itself from the Rehabilitation Center because in practice, we have had nothing to do with the organization. It's fully funded. We make no financial contribution, and this is part of that process. Deputy Mayor, are you voting in favor?
I have never done that, but I didn't get there in time.
Then the motion is unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Is there any other business to come before the meeting? No other business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Granger twice. All those in favor, please signify by voting now or otherwise. Unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you for your